farming is the cultivation of maize or corn from the seed stage to the marketing of the harvested maize or corn. Maize is a prominent cereal crop and one of Nigeria's most essential staple food. Because of its genetic versatility, it is the most commonly farmed plant in the nation, from the damp evergreen environment of the forest region to the arid ecosystem of the southern savanna. Maize farming is one of the most profitable types of farming in Nigeria. Maize is in high demand in the country. Local production only meets about 72% of the total annual demand for maize. Maize cultivation is best suited for plain regions. Because it is photoperiod insensitive, maize can be cultivated at any time yearly, allowing for greater flexibility in fitting into various cropping patterns. Let's go talk to a renowned farmer on maize production and marketing in person of Akin Alabi.
My name is Akin Alabi. I'm the visionary and also co-founder at Corporate Farmers International, an agribusiness company in Lagos. We are into major 5 business models. We are into farm management services, commodity trading, and agri-media and extension services. We're also into capacity building and training. We're also into digital agriculture services. Practically, we have an e-learning platform where students across the entire world could come on board and learn all about agribusiness services. Maize farming is quite deep, and moreover, it's one of the major crops today in the entire world, which embed the entire existence of mankind. Reason because maize has its elements across different value chain. So the process or the production life cycle of maize is in about 5 or 6 different formations. For example, the first thing you do in terms of if you want to cultivate or you want to start maize farming system, number one, you must ensure that you have the accurate soil. So you have to do proper soil testing before you start at all, because the soil content or composition you have when you're starting gives what is expected at the output at the point of harvest. So you must have a very good soil context, soil composition for your start. And 2, you must have your seeds. So in terms of seeds, these are also very good areas you need to put much attention to, because today we have all types of maize seeds. So for us, basically, we always advise that you go for premium seeds that will give you large turnout of crops at the point of harvest season, because we have a lot of seeds today that once they are attacked either by pests or by climate crisis, then the owner or the farmer run at a very huge loss. So they can't take in a whole lot of risk, let me put it that way, when it happens. So we always advise premium seeds. I can't mention brands here, but premium seeds are basically we advise farmers to put in consideration. Then also management is another area we also will consider. So the life cycle of every maize is between 3 to 4 months. So that management process needs to be well taken care of. So you need to have a proper farm manager on the farm that will ensure that at the point of cultivation, there are monitoring stages to ensure that it doesn't get attacked by pests, and also in terms of watering. So if you do not have that, let's say irrigation on your farm, you are expecting God, to provide the rain. So you must ensure that those processes are well managed by a proper farm manager that understands maize farming to the latter, to the core, to the deep, so that your tonnage at the end of harvest is expected and you don't run at loss in terms of your outputs when you do your end of harvest calculations. So those processes are very important. Then the final stage is the harvest process. So harvest comes in 2 stages. So for us in Nigeria, basically, we always expect that we want the cobs to dry on the maize before we start harvesting them, while some will just get it off and start the entire tilling off and everything process. But what we'd advise mostly is that during wet season or during proper farming season, 3 months farming 3-month farm life cycle, we advise that if you could harvest while you now do manual drying and every other thing you want to do on your maize. But if it's during dry season farming, basically because today in Nigeria, we have that change in temperature. So we advise that during dry season, you could leave your cob on the fence, you could leave your cob to get dry on it, and you can begin to harvest to make it easier. And that, you begin your process either by tearing or by grinding or whatever you want to use the maize for at the end of the day. But those processes need to be well monitored and taken care of by the farm managed expert or the expertise you're putting on the farm to understand those life cycles. Because when you miss one, especially that management angle, that's 2-3 months. When you miss it, not applying the right fertilizers, right pesticides on those farms or on those maize crops, you might get it wrong. Either you have a very low turnout on turns, or you have quite large turnout if it's well managed and if it's well controlled. So one of the things that we advise farmers is that by the time you harvest your maize, you must ensure proper storage systems, which could be in terms of because normally what we are used to in Africa or in Nigeria basically is after harvesting we bag them, then we store them in warehouses. And we must, before we do that, one of the things we need to ensure that we have the appropriate and the quite level of moist, so that by the time you are bagging and you're bagging or warehousing those maize, it doesn't begin to take out those fungi and mucus at the end of the day. So that level of proper warehousing or storage system, and that's why we always advise farmers that, look, if you can't construct a silo, you must ensure that you have a proper, well managed with good, well controlled air system, whereby once your maize is being bagged, okay, there is inflow and outflow of air, to maintain the regular temperature of the maize. Because by the time you are moving those maize from point A to point Z, where it's going to be used either an FMCG or another manufacturing company, the quality control, okay, still has can still find the appropriate texture for their use before being used for another purpose entirely.